Okay, we're working on this '07. It had a bad lifter. We replaced it, and it has a defective one. So yes, we get to do the job twice. Um, it's not easy. It's probably take me a few days just because I'm starting at noon, and that's just what it's going to be. There is some things that you could do to make it easier. One is this piece. Obviously, been sitting out in my yard for a minute, like a couple months. So the brake booster hose goes here, and your wiring harness comes through here. So if you remove this piece that serves no purpose really to me, then your hose is back there. You can see it. You don't have to fight that on the back of the intake. When you take off the manifold, you just pop this. The best thing about it is that when you remove this bolt here and you remove this harness, you could pull the whole harness over and out of your way, so you do not have to fight it on the back of this backing plate here, because it's super tight that comes around through here. So if you remove that, once you get the intake off your first time, you never have to do it again. And I think they put it back there maybe for noise or something, or just to piss you off. Either way, take that piece off, leave it off. I'm gonna do it in stages. I don't have GoPro set up or nothing like that, so I'm not gonna sit here and waste everybody's time. But basically, I already disconnected the battery. It's charging. The car's been sitting up for several months. We'll pull this intake piece off, which is nothing but a bolt here, one PCV valve line, one electrical connection, one, you don't even have to do the electrical connection, one other clamp, and this PCV valve that goes up here where the hose is broke, so I'll replace it with a rubber line, or possibly get this piece, probably a rubber line. So I won't have a vacuum leak there. Once I do that, I'm gonna work on the harness. The harness is really easy. Like I said, this will come out of the way. And then all I'm doing after that is intake manifold bolts and the fuel line. The fuel line, you'll have a special tool that pops off your fuel line on the back. And then you can let the pressure out on this side here. Usually I hook up a gauge, and then that will depressure the line. I may or may not do that, just because the car's been sitting and I doubt that there's pressure in there. But on GP, I may do that. And if I do that, I'll come back and video it. If not, I'm moving forward. These clips slide up, and then press in for a lock. I may show that if I haven't been in other videos. And then 10 millimeters intake off. Once I get that done, I'll show you what that looks like if need be. And then we'll pull the alternator just to make it easier to get the intake out, so it doesn't get stuck back here. Disconnect the electrical cables and stuff that the harness is out. The next thing will be the row of coils. Really simple, couple bolts here and there. The whole assembly comes off, disconnect it, lean it over here to the side. Last time I had bad exhaust bolts. I have new ones now. The other bad thing is that it's very hard to get those off, which I can't really. I've tried. So what I'm gonna try to do is get these bolts out first before I unbolt this, move the plugs and everything out of the way. And if I can get the head bolts out and then this, that'll save me hours of headache. If not, then I'll have to drop the manifold and pry it over here to get it out of the way so I can get the bolts. And that is just not cool. So if I could do it, great. And then if not, whatever, I'm Mexican, I'll move forward. I'll get this off to get all the rockers off, push rods, valve cover of course first, and then all the other bolts inside, and then a couple down by the intake. And that should be it. The head will come off. Got to drain the water of course, but that's just the plan. I'll stop and record where I feel like it's necessary, and give you some heads up. All right, starting the venture. So this is an update. This is how far I've gotten, almost to the point of where I'm going to take a break. It's only been an hour. I got the intake out, like you could see. It drained the water. You could see I have the air intake, the alternator, the original intake, and I broke the gasket, so I have to order one. The coil packs. So just giving an update. This is the hours worth of work so far. I'm sure the dealership would have charged you 3-4 hours to do this much so far. And probably 9 or 10 hours for the whole job, which should take you about 4 hours-ish cleaning up and everything else. I'm at the dreaded part that I hate with this exhaust manifold that will not be able to get out of the way to get the head bolts out the bottom. So, kind of sucks because I know I can't get those 3 on the intake. So that's where I will spend a number of hours wasted because I'm unable to break those 3 at the flange. I'm gonna drop these ones loose and pull whatever head ones are, call, maybe spend another 30 minutes, an hour, and I'm good. I'm not gonna get too frustrated and upset at it. The rest is regularly just the valve cover gaskets, loosen up the rockers, pull the push rods, pop the bolts inside there. The other smaller intake, the smaller head bolts in there you see in between the intakes, and then just go pop the head. But I'm gonna spend a long time on these 4 bolts at the bottom because the exhaust manifold will be in the way. Really much, a lot. Anyway, I was just giving you a 1 hour update. Pretty good. Alright, so what I figured out, instead of prying this exhaust manifold away from the head to get to those other bolts down here, well, that one's easy, but you see that one, and as they all go on, if you tell from the mark on the gasket, I had to go forward maybe 1/2 inch and slightly up. So what I did was I put our jack stand right on the exhaust down there. Not sure if you can see it, kind of down there, right on the end of the Kelly converter, which isn't harming it. Pushed it all up and then pried it forward about 1/2 inch or so. Got all the bolts out. And I guess I'll have to go backwards with it at the end, but we'll see. Anyway, so I got those out. I loosened up these. I took the valve cover off. Got these ones out, except for the one in the back, because it has that extra water jacket deal in the back. Like how this one had the crossover. But when I loosen up all the head bolts, I'll be able to rock that up and then pull that one out. I could take that thing off in the back, but why if it's not leaking? I was to take these all loose. I gotta pull the rods out and then down the last 5 head bolts, and the head will come off. So far I would estimate about 3 hours in. This is the next day and it's raining, so I may stop here, I may not. It's sprinkling now, so we'll see how it goes. So I got the head off. Have to do some cleanup, of course. Make sure you have these dowel pins in. This is down, I'll pull it up. I'll sand the surface. Cleaned it up a little bit. I'll sand it up some more. Get it cleaned and dropping the new other lifters. The original ones really, and then one new one. Because I'm not sure about these ones. I believe these are like LS1s. Seem to be worked okay, but definitely this one had a problem, and I'll show you that video later. The number 1 squirting. I was trying to look at something different, and when I looked down into the seat, I found this tiny piece of metal. So it makes me feel a little bit more better that I got a bad lifter. I'm assuming they came out from the inside. I don't know how they work exactly inside of here, but it was sitting down where the push rod would sit down in there. So I'm assuming like a little ring inside broke. I don't know. We're gonna swap it out and put it all back together. Yeah. So that's where we're at with this. So I'll spend an hour or so cleaning it up and then start getting it ready to go back. A lot of water was still up in the heads, which sucks because some of it goes probably back into the oil. I wiped it all out from the cylinders pretty quick. I'm hoping none went down there, or else I gotta do an oil change too. It is what it is. Everything else is just going back together. I'm sure there'll be a lot of headaches along the way, like it normally is. I'm just hoping that this solves the problem. I'm not gonna move on. Alright, so I wanted to show you, this is the collapsed one. It's been laying around in my garage for a while, but you could tell that it's collapsed because of the length difference, right? See that 1/4 inch? That's how it goes collapsed and you lose a cylinder when it does the 4-cylinder, 8-cylinder. The other thing that's different too about these, I don't know if you could see the width of that one, and then these ones are narrow. See if I can get this one next to it. It's kind of dirty though. And they are shorter a little bit. These will stick out further. That one's not as much, but it is wider. If you look how wide it is here compared to how narrow it is there. And this is just a little bit deeper in, and it doesn't stand out a little bit. But on the opposite side, on these ones that do the same thing, that are narrower but deeper, this part is shallower. So if you think that it would make a difference, it's not exact. The other thing different about this that I wanted to show too is that where the oil goes in, these go in straight with the cam low. Again, you could see but this one comes in on the side. Here's the pin for it. And then you could also see how much wider they are, but shallow. So yeah, they say they're for my car and everything, but they're not. So that's the difference, I believe, between the LS1 style and the LS3. It is technically the same stuff, but it's not the same when you pull it out of the car. So I'm going back with the LS3 stuff, which is the 07. Yeah, but this block, the block is LS3 because of the year. Of course, it is different. Like the Escalade 6.0s are called LQ9s. Of course, if you were going to hot rod this motor, which I'm not, you would get rid of all this deactivating cylinder stuff and go straight cam, straight all these rockers, and even could upgrade to a LS7 rocker. But now we're getting off topic. Anyway, I got this all mostly cleaned up, at least cleaned up enough for me and the people that I know. So I'm gonna put the lifters in. May or may not take a break because I know I'm gonna get frustrated with the head gasket. Drop the head gasket in, drop the head, tighten down the head, and for sure take a break because the heat's coming out for the day. And then we'll see about putting stuff back together. Once the head bolt's down, it's pretty straightforward. Maybe another 2 hours of work, if that. But I am waiting on an intake gasket because the one that comes with the kit I don't like. I like the ones that grab the intake so that it's easier for you to install. Unfortunately, see how this one grabs it down here? But I broke one on the way out, so I got a new one coming. The other ones would just be a hassle. Alright, so we got the head on, head cleaned up, throw the valve covers on, rocker arms, torqued them down, and push rods in, exhaust manifold, because it's still hooked up, you know, fought me maybe an hour or more. It took a long time. It shouldn't have, but it did. But anyway, I got it. So the torque sequence is what it is, but then the way that they do it is they want 22 on everything. So you have 15 bolts, mostly the big 10 ones that are 15 millimeter here, and then there's 5 of the 10 millimeter. So you go around everything 22 pounds, and then they want you to buy a torque wrench that does degrees, which you could already tell that I didn't do. So you would do 90 degree pass on all the 15 millimeters, and then a 70 degree, which is this much. So obviously I didn't do that. Although I figured that someone else, as I did my second pass at my 90 degree, I was coming out around 57, 60 pounds. So the thousands of people that have already done this must have already figured out the torques. So that's what I did. I Googled it. And what they do is, for the head bolts, they go 30, 50, 70. So I'd already did my 22s. So, and I figured I was already past the 50, 60 pounds for my second pass. So I just went around and did them all 70. One guy said he does it 75. Whatever. If you don't have that degree thing, don't do it. Everything is pretty much set, ready to go. I'm waiting on intake manifold gasket that I broke. I have some, but I don't like them, so I'm going back with the OG ones that clamp on. I showed that earlier in the video. I didn't put the alternator in just because the manifold's kind of getting in the way. I did hook back up the radiator hoses that I used to drain. So basically right now, I just doing the plugs. I'll hook up the ground. I might put the coil packs on, just see how my night feels. The mosquitoes are coming out, so probably will stop. But either way, that stuff is like 10-15 minutes, 5 minutes, 5-15 minutes, so less than an hour's worth of work. And then we will fill it up with water. Hopefully nothing got into the oil, because when you pop these heads, there's still antifreeze in them, and so they did go, but then it seemed like I dried it out real quick so that they couldn't get past the ring. So hopefully last time they did, but hopefully that they didn't. And if not, oh well, I'm changing the oil then. But we'll fire and see if that one bad lifter that was shooting across over the fender well, and I'll add that video. It did have that tiny piece of metal that I showed you in the other video, so I'm hoping that that was somehow letting the pressure push through, and as the lined up with the rocker arm every time, it just gave me 40 pounds, 40 pounds, 40 pounds, or whatever it is. So that's what I'm banking on. Anyway, the gasket should be here tomorrow. I may continue putting on those other little things. I may just take a break, call it good, and then wait for that part tomorrow. Put on all those other pieces over here. The plugs are already in. Just a coil pack, I guess, is what I would do. And then just need to drop the intake, put the alternator back on, and the snorkel or whatever. So that's that. So we got it all back together. A tiny little tick, but this is like the first 10 seconds of it warming up. But yeah, intake all together, all the hoses, all the connections, nothing's leaking, it's good. Seems like it's fixed. So we'll be celebrating.